Hi, my name is Diego, and I'm gonna read my poem named My Lost Mom. I'm looking for my mom. I see what happened. On a ranch in Mexico, I was looking for my mom. I told him to give my mom, but he flew away with tremendous wings. He flew fast like a bullet, but suddenly he relented and gave my mom back. On a ranch in Mexico, I was looking for my mom. Right now, I'm grateful.
Juntos, together.
El cielo me dice todo el dolor que tiene. Las llamas candentes se congelan en carambanos. Lágrimas caen.
Good morning, boys and girls.
Good morning, Mr. Silent.
Okay, today we're going to write haiku outside. How many lines in a haiku?
Three.
3.
5 lines.
What goes in your 3 lines can be anything in the real world or the imaginary world. Poetry Inside Out, a project of the Center for the Art of Translation, is the only program that we know of that teaches literary translation to elementary and middle school students. We call it Poetry Inside Out because when our bilingual kids translate great poetry from Spanish to English, they go so deeply inside the creative process of a Pablo Neruda or Gabriela Mistral that then when they write their own poems, either in Spanish or English, they come out with original work which is informed and empowered by that profound immersion.
My mom crying, an old man shivering, my birds spreading their wings.
There's a whole movement afoot to improve education and providing children, particularly in low-income minority schools, with an arts education is going to help put them on a par with children who are going to private schools or affluent public schools.
¿Qué me está diciendo el poema en español y cómo lo puedo escribir yo en inglés? ¿Cómo puedo usar las palabras en inglés para captar el sentido, para expresar lo que está diciendo en español? Por otro lado, hacemos traducción porque cuando traducen un poema se inspiran a escribir sus propios poemas. Por ejemplo, hoy van a usar este poema como ejemplo para escribir sus propios poemas. Es un poema medio triste, este poema. Vamos a ver qué dice. Sin jamás habernos visto, nos reconocimos y nuestras huellas fueron parejas y nuestras sangres forjaron hijos. What sounds better? And our blood formed children or kids, first of all? So let's start with children. Why do you think children is better?
It's more interesting.
It's more interesting. Very good. Anything else?
Because it sounds better.
It sounds better. Okay, shh. Why do you think kids is better?
Because it's like shorter.
You think it fits better in the structure of the poem? Okay.
Sounds good.
It sounds good? Okay. Raise your hand if you still prefer children. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Kids! 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
The thing about translation that's really ideal for kids is that translation forces you to read literature at a much deeper level. If you're reading a poem and you don't fully understand what it says, the teacher may ask you, what is this poem about? And you can describe it a little bit in general terms. If you're required to translate a poem, you need to know what every single word means and what nuance might be there behind each word and how the words are being used, because words can have many different meanings. And so to have kids who are in 3rd grade reading poetry this deeply requires a level of understanding of language and of communication that is really unusual.
Muy bien.
Estrella, un vidrio en el cielo.
Ay, qué lindo, un vidrio en el cielo, sí.
Un volador, ratero de las ideas.
Fantástico, muy bien ese. Sí.
Noche, mar negro en que los sueños se ahogan.
Ay, wow, muy poético ese, muy lindo, ¿sí?
Sí, violetas moradas, Pedro.
Purple violets.
Purple violets. Good to change the order. Always remember that the order it is in Spanish may come out differently in English.
The very first year that we had it, I saw an increase of my students' writing scores in the California State test from an average of 47 up to 87.
We had great improvement in the 4th grade. We had great improvement in the 7th grade. So much so that it helped in our school being able to jump the 54 points that we did academically.
And for that reason, I begged the school board to allow John Simon to come back again. And I really think it's very, very good for our students to learn how to be creative, because they really don't seem to know how to be creative because nobody's put them in that spot. I'm pleased to be that person to put them there.
We flew into the sky, stealing the stars. Your wings beating in the wind. Your silver tongue licked me. You know my weakness. You fly in the wind. What are you? Dragon.
I've been writing poetry for 4 years.
I have to say, I think I considered it one of her after-school activities and definitely an enriching activity, but I wasn't really aware of the level of her interest and her talent. But as a family, it's made poetry much more a part of all of our lives.
What do I find inspiring me to write? Well, I like writing dark stuff, or I don't exactly really like writing happy stuff. I don't know, I think that's kind of boring too. I like images of birds, because I really like birds, and especially owls, which go out in the night. That's another reason why I like dark poetry. I also like stories. Poetry is also kind of like a story, but it goes in a different form. Poetry is sometimes like mysterious.
The title of my poem is Labyrinth. Starting the labyrinth, starting life. Watching frogs croak to one another. Watching teenagers graffiti on houses. I've observed. Walking in the labyrinth. Walking in the door that starts life. Seeing the trees move gently. Seeing people walk on the path that doesn't exist. Looking around in the labyrinth. Watching the stillness of the loud wind forcing the trees to dance the tango.
We recognize that the future of California is going to be multilingual. The majority of Californians in the future will be people who come from an immigrant background.
We have to take advantage. There is so many different cultures, so many different languages of people who are part of the society. I just visited a middle school the Carolines going to, King. In one classroom, the teacher had 14 different languages. And that was fantastic.
So we feel this is an opportunity to educate the majority of the future, to create a generation of people who love literature, read literature, translate literature, to nurture the interest in other cultures and nurture those bilingual skills.
Abre las alas, nace el fuego. David?
Open the wings. The fire is born.
Nice. Julia?
When the wings open, the fire is born.
Maggie?
It opens its wings and fire is born.
Y todo sigue azul como mañana. Julie Rowan.
Until and everything follows blue like tomorrow.
Caroline.
And everything stays blue like tomorrow.
Alex.
And everything remains blue like tomorrow.
Julia S.
Everything keeps on being blue until tomorrow.
Until tomorrow?
Like
tomorrow. Maggie.
And everything stays blue until the dawn.
Until the dawn.
It's really important for the bilingual students to be able to use both of their languages to be able to be successful in English. One of the best ways of being able to attack a word, trying to understand what it is to use your second language to do that. This morning we had an example of bibliography, and the students didn't know what it meant, and yet they understood the word biblioteca, which is a library. And so it was a very, very good way of explaining to them it's important to use both of your languages to be successful.
Yo empecé a hablar en inglés desde al principio de kinder. Yo sí tengo miedo que olvide mi español porque quiero saber mi español como soy latina. Por ser latina sí tengo orgullo.
Anybody who really understands what bilingual education is about understands that when students have a strong foundation in the first language, then they can successfully transfer that skill to their second language. And as a bilingual educator for 12 years, I can say from my own experience that students that have a strong academic foundation in their first language are the ones that have the best study skills.
My name is Carmen. My age is 10. I go to school at Lucier Elementary. When I was in 3rd grade, I started writing poetry.
Children often do better academically when they've learned to read and write in their native language and then learn English. And I think Carmen is a perfect example of that. She's a recent English learner, and she's already surpassed in 4th grade the ability of many native-speaking English students.
My favorite poet was Pablo Neruda because he had a great imagination, and I really liked that. The things that make me inspired in poetry is that it's a great way to say nice things, but not saying it just like normal talk. You say it and express it. That's what inspires me in poetry. I come up here sometimes because I feel more connected to nature and I can write my poem more better here. And sometimes I stand here and just look at some of the flowers and get inspiration from the flowers or from the colors, from everything, I think. Blanco que te quiero, blanco como el ángel que baila en las almohadas blancas. Blanco como te quiero, blanco como el caballo que galopea por su corazón blanco. Blanco que te quiero, blanco como la mariposa que sale en invierno. Nadie sabe quién es, pero le decimos blanca misteriosa. For me, poetry is like a light that comes to save me because I didn't have anything to express myself and I kept it bottled in mind. But then when poetry came, I could express myself in many ways.
Good morning, my name is Gentail. I'm going to read my poem entitled My Space. My life is like a door, you open it, you close it. My life doesn't have any privacy. I hate my life. It's loud and full of commotion and dirty homeless gun people. My life doesn't have any quality or responsibility. It's a lifelong term. Can you steer my life? Can I borrow yours? It's your life important? My life is scareless. I'm scared of the ice cream truck's music. It's all about love and life's chances and what it gives you.
If you look at the young people that get involved in the criminal justice system, they can't seem to express what's causing their frustration. Nationwide, it would be good for kids to be able to write, be it in prose or in poetry, what troubles them, what makes them happy. And I think if they were to see those kinds of things or were able to express themselves in that manner, that we wouldn't have half the problems that we're having with kids. It's just this inability to clearly articulate what's in their head and what's on their heart.
My name is Ricardo, and I'm going to read my poem entitled Disappointment. The Rain. I feel like when it rains, God is crying that our world is killing itself apart by using drugs and guns. The rain makes my heart black. Since my mother's from Guatemala, my dad's from Mexico, and I'm from right here, they people keep saying, hey, p*** de Guatemala, regrésate a tu país. And I keep telling them I'm not from Guatemala. I was born in Oakland, California. I'm in 6th grade, and I go to Dolores Huerta Learning Academy. I think that schools that don't allow Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, French, that are not bilingual schools, they're practically prejudiced, racist, saying that English is the language that it should only be spoken. No other language exists but English. I just say it sucks. I think it would be good if there was poetry class in all schools and all kids got to study it. It would definitely bring more spirit into the world, less killing, using guns, drugs, all that. It's like sports or something that after school or something you could do and it gets you out of trouble. My favorite poem that I wrote would probably be a picture poem I wrote last year about a serious, well, not really serious, but about are we actually here because of God, or are we just like lab mice for aliens and just like trying to entertain them? My favorite poet would be, I don't even think he's a poet, but it would have to be Dr. Seuss, but I've heard that he did write some poems, but I'm not sure. And if he wasn't, then it would have to be Homer, the Greek poet.
My name is Keisha, and I'm 9 years old, and I go to Minor Elementary School.
My name is Keisha Walls, and I'm Keisha Mitchell's mother. My experience in America growing up as an African American with diverse culture is I sort of feel like on the outside. Like growing up in Bayview, for example, where it used to be dominantly African American, and now you have more of the Asian and the Hispanic moving in. So you have all these other cultures going in, and the times are changing because now they're looking sort of at you as who are you and why you're here, and you have people clutching the purses, and it's kind of uncomfortable actually. It kind of hurts because when my kids go outside now, the other children might not want to play with them because they're afraid maybe of the skin, not necessarily of them. But thanks to Keisha being in a bilingual class, she's able to break the boundaries and talk to them in the Spanish language, and then they feel a little more welcoming and more receptive. So that's another reason that I'm grateful she's in the bilingual program, because she breaks down barriers that I wouldn't know how to break down.
To translate a Spanish from English to Spanish, it is great, because then sometimes when you perform, you have 2 poems, and then sometimes people be like, wow, what girl, she knows how to speak Spanish and English.
I love all of her poems. She has one that she's written about my sister that's really special to me.
I started writing poetry by my auntie this year. Me and my auntie had a good relationship because she took me everywhere I wanted. She would buy me everything, take me to the store. It was just really fun.
The poem itself is just really touching. I'm gonna start crying.
I'm sorry.
It just touched me.
She got shot when she was just like with her brothers.
Your auntie got shot?
Mm-hmm.
It just touches me that she can express herself through the poetry, because it was so hard for her to talk about what happened. That she just in the poem she talks about the good times that they had, that they shared.
Mi hermosa tía, mi tía tenía una sonrisa como arcoíris. Sus ojos eran profundos como el mar. Su sonrisa se iluminaba como una estrella luminosa. Cuando ella me abrazó, era como una mariposa volando en el aire.
So here are things not to do when you're reading. No movements, stand up straight.
Don't cross your legs.
Don't cross your legs, don't twist and turn, don't shuffle your arms. If you're reading from a page, no te escondas detrás de la hoja de papel, porque si no, no te podemos ver las lindas caritas que todos tienen aquí, ¿ok?
The fog. I think that the fog is perhaps the element from God born with the dawn of the mist to the countryside. Do not break it, son, do not take it. Let God break together the sun.
Tus lágrimas son los más claros diamantes. Tu sonrisa es el alma del sol. Cuando tú cantas empiezan a brotar las flores más lindas. Cuando tú pintas, pintan un arcoíris en el cielo. Y cuando tú te fuiste, todas las cosas más hermosas fallecieron.
Another deadline that is coming up is the River of Words contest. River of Words is a big national contest for poetry and art.
¿Sabes que la persona que ganó el gran premio el año pasado la volaron a Washington, D.C. con su familia?
Oh.
Sí, para leer su poema frente al Congreso. Y eso fue para todos.
Oh
y los finalistas...
Also a student of John Oliver Simon's, from Berkeley, Maggie Gallagher.
Ownership. Who really owns me? Right now, it's a leaf on a Japanese maple. Image. Once, now, the loud blue birds flitted across honeyed surfaces of dreams. Flow. Sterling specks show there, forever diving back to the rustling waves.
Ode to the fern. Ode to the fern, silhouette of determination. Firm, desperate, yet confident roots. Surrounded with comfort, generations of family. Self-conscious, spottedly brave. Always arching and reaching with a raised chin. Searching for glory. Ode to the fern, cascading over the concrete wall.
Luna ni luna. La luna ni luna trae las estrellas moradas hacia mí. Me la coloca en la palma de la mano. Se me caen quebrándose en pequeñas lágrimas.
What we would love is to see these kids becoming the ambassadors of their own culture and literature and kind of spread the notion of cultural exchange and the beauty of international literature and of learning about other cultures.